It's time to shine with Kendall Lanise, transformational life coach, author, and speaker. This is a show where the spotlight shines on people, topics, and subjects that are honest, real, and relevant to you. Be ready to be educated, elevated, and entertained. Here's your host, Lady Motivator herself, Kendall Lanise. Welcome to Shine, everybody. Real talk for real people. Thanks for shining with me this evening. I am Kendall Lanise. I hope everyone had a great week thus far. Today we are doing an important show, like always. I'm shining my spotlight on what's honest, real, and relevant to you. It's interesting how I decided to do this show. Now, in previous shows last year in 2018, I did a series on mental illness. And I think mental illness is so important, especially the climate that we're in, where people are bold and courageous and authentic with themselves and with other people, and really trying to live their best lives and getting the help that they need and addressing certain issues. It's interesting. So, excuse me, 3 conversations this week, between last week and this week, about anxiety, about people having anxiety. And I just found it interesting that more than not, a lot of people are suffering from anxiety. So on this episode, I shine my spotlight on anxiety disorder. So this is going to be an interesting show. If you suffer from anxiety, or you're not sure if you suffer from anxiety, this might be a show for you. You might need to listen to this show, or you might recognize some of the behaviors and some of the symptoms and some of the stories in someone else. So I think it's an important show. As always, I'm all about trying to help you out, trying to teach you something that you didn't know prior to coming on this show. Well, listening to this show, I should say. We're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to come back with our life note, and we are going to begin our show. We'll be right back. Are you stuck in a dead-end job or relationship? Do you lack motivation? Are you unhappy with the way your life is turning out? Do you have a difficult time achieving goals and reaching your dreams? Are you ready to get back to what's important? Do you want to just spice up your life? Are you at a crossroads in life and you don't know which way to turn? All of these things I can help you with. My name is Kendall Lanise, and I'm a certified transformational life coach. For more information about my life coaching services, please visit livingtruelivingyou.com. Now back to the show. All right, it's time for this week's life note. All right. Welcome back. So tonight's life note is, let me just explain what a life note is. A life note is something that you can carry with you today and for the rest of your life. On each show, I will give a life note pertaining to the show. And it's something that you can hold on to. It might be a quote from me, or it might be a quote from someone I love, respect, and admire. And today's quote is from Les Brown, motivational speaker extraordinaire. So the life note for today is: ask for help, not because you're weak, but because you want to remain strong. Again, that is a quote from Les Brown. I'll say it one more time for the people in the back. Ask for help, not because you're weak, but because you want to remain strong. That is our life note for this week. So as we talk about anxiety, as a life coach, I think it's very appropriate to talk about help and asking for help. And that quote, I believe, is perfect for today's show. I am not a doctor. I just want to put that disclaimer out there. I am a certified transformational life coach, and I am here to inform you and to educate you, bring you information. And that's what this show is about. So you'll hear some paper in the background. You'll hear me. You hear that? because I have notes, because I think it's important when you're talking about something like this or something that you don't specialize in per se. I know a lot about it, but do I specialize in it? No, I don't. So I think it's important for me to read you facts. I'll be going to Psychology Today. I'll be going to the U.S. Department of Health. It's important for me, health and, what is this? HHS, so Department of Health and Hygiene. So I think it's important to have notes because I want to bring you the proper information. And if you go back to some of the shows, I'm not sure what episode it is, but I'll make sure I'll have the episodes within this episode so you can go and listen to those, because I had a expert on in 2017 and we talked about mental illness and we touched on anxiety, but we did not have a show strictly on anxiety. And I thought it was important to do this show because, like I said, let me just read some statistics and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of the show. So anxiety, I don't know if you knew this, but anxiety is the most common mental health disorder. 28% of the total population suffer from some form of anxiety. Did you know that? You might say, I think I suffer from anxiety. I'm not sure if I suffer from anxiety, but I think I do. So once we get into the show today, you might hear some of the things that you're going through, or it might just shed light to what you think you are going through, because I think it's important to be able to do that. And shows like this, I'm not going to have a platform and just laugh with you all of the time, although I'm very silly. I love to laugh. I love to have fun. I love to entertain. I love to speak and coach and get the message out and all of that good stuff. But I would not be doing you a service if I didn't bring to you the real. And one thing about me is I like to bring the real. I like to address the elephant in the room. And anxiety is an elephant in the room because a lot of people, let's be real. So when we're talking about mental illness, no one wants to say I suffer from a mental illness. And when I say no one, I don't mean everyone out there who has one is not willing to tell someone about their mental illness. What I'm saying is it's almost like a mark on someone's forehead. Hey, I suffer from mental illness. But in this country, we see what's going on with mental illness. We see when people are at their breaking point and they're about to break and one thing happens and people just really go in on what's going on. We see what's happening. So I think it's important for us to address what's going on instead of kind of hiding from it. I think it's important to talk about these things. So what is anxiety? Anxiety. Excuse me. Charge it to my mind and not my heart. But anxiety. A lot of people suffer from anxiety and hear about anxiety. Anxiety. What is it? I'm having an anxiety attack, and we start talking about different things like that. But before I go any further, I want to make it clear that, again, that I am not a doctor. I am a life coach here to inform you and educate you this evening. Now, anxiety disorder is a mental illness disorder characterized by feelings of worry, anxiety, or fear that are strong enough to interfere with one's daily activities. So, anxiety is serious. Some people can't even function in everyday life on the daily basis because anxiety is so strong and so present in their life. So I think this is something that you might understand. If you're dealing with someone who has anxiety, you have to understand what it is and you have to understand how to deal with them and what you can do to help them. And I think that's very important because it might not be you, but it might be your mother, your aunt, your child. It might be your husband, your wife. It might be, your coworkers that you work closely with every day. It might be your best friend. If it's not you, it affects you because it's around you. So with anxiety, there are 5 major types of anxiety disorder. Let's talk about them, shall we? All right, the first one is generalized anxiety. So what generalized anxiety is it's an anxiety disorder characterized by chronic anxiety, exaggerated worry, and tension, even when there is little or nothing to provoke it. So you just might be on edge and you're unsure why, but anything can provoke it. You've heard of this one. The second one is very common: OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So the OCD is an anxiety disorder, and it's characterized by recurrent unwanted thoughts, obsessions, and repetitive behaviors, which is the compulsion part of it. Repetitive behaviors such as hand washing, counting, checking, or cleaning are often performed with the hope of preventing obsessive thoughts or making them go away. Performing these so-called rituals, however, provides only a temporary relief, and not performing them markedly increases anxiety. So basically what they're saying is, and I'm reading from I have a couple of things up. I have a couple iPads. I have a pad, and I have my phone. And this particular iPad I'm reading from, there are cracks in there, so I was trying to read around the crack. Raise your hand if you've ever done that with a phone or an iPad. But it's still a good iPad. What can I say? So, all right. So when we talk about OCD, you've heard people say, oh, if I hit this arm, I got to hit the other arm. Or if I prick this finger, I got to prick the other finger. I don't know if you've heard it. I've heard people say that. So if I walked around this way, I got to walk around that way. I got to do what I do to my right, to my left. That's what OCD is. Or I have to get up, I have to wash the table, I have to straighten out the chair, I have to do, you perform the same repetitive behaviors over and over and over again. And when you're doing them, you hope the thoughts go away, but they don't. That's that obsessive. Again, the obsessive part is unwanted, and the repetitive behaviors are the compulsions. And it's all about, again, washing your hands or counting, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to wash my hands, and then I'm going to check to see if the door is locked. I'm going to go back and check. I'm going to be in the bed, but let me get up one more time to check and see if that door is locked. Okay, I checked. I know it's locked, but I'm going back to bed. But something is still telling me that the door is not locked. So that's what people do, or they're cleaning. Have you ever seen someone clean a house and it's spick and span, they wash the floor, but to them that the floor is still filthy, it's still dirty, and they feel like that they have to re-clean it? That's an obsession. There's a show on, my daughter had me watching, it's a show, the concept is they're hoarders. It's not the show Hoarders, but they're hoarders. It's on Netflix. It's tiny something, I can't think of it right now, but the whole concept of the show is you have these people with OCD, and you have these people that are pretty nasty and filthy. Their houses look like the houses on Hoarders, and we know that that's another mental illness, and that's a disorder, but we're not going to talk about that one today. So you have these OCD people who are spick and span. They clean all the time. Everything is in order in their places, their houses. And then you have people who are just filthy. So they bring the two together so that the OCD person could kind of see the error in their ways, and they go clean the houses that are junky, nasty, disgusting, dirty, to try to see if that's going to counteract their OCD. And they're going to say, you know what, my house is not that bad, I can ease up a bit. So I find that it is an interesting concept. The show is on Netflix. It's Tiny Something. And it's a little Asian lady, really, really cute. She doesn't speak English. She has an interpreter. And she goes in and transform some of these houses. But you know what? That's something I'm getting two shows mixed up. Goodness gracious, because it's two shows that I was just introduced to. But the concept of the one that I was talking about, the OCD, that is real. Google that. I'm not sure what it is. I didn't know I was going to talk about it today, or I might ask, because my mom and my daughter and I, we were watching that. So I might, I will ask them what the name of the show is, and I'll put it in the show notes as well. Okay. So again, there are 5 major types of anxiety disorder. So we talked about 2 thus far. We talked about just the generalized anxiety disorder and OCD. Now on to the third, it's panic disorder. Panic disorder is an anxiety disorder, and it's characterized by unexpected and repeated episodes of intense fear accompanied by physical symptoms that may include chest pain, heart palpitations, shortness of breath, dizziness, or abdominal distress. You've heard people say, I'm having a panic disorder. And sometimes they say it feels like a heart attack. Even if they haven't had a heart attack, they feel like those are the same symptoms of a heart attack. And again, I am not a doctor, but hearing people talk about heart attacks, they talk about chest pains and heart palpitations and shortness of breath and dizziness. So a lot of people think when they're having a panic attack, they feel like they're having a heart attack. The fourth major type of anxiety disorder is PTSD. Now, I know you've heard that before, post-traumatic stress disorder. And a lot of people associate with PTSD with military. If you were in the war, or if you saw a lot that you can't unsee, then that will bring about post-traumatic disorder. But a lot of people can have post-traumatic disorder just by having a traumatic upbringing. But PTSD is an anxiety disorder that can develop after exposure to a terrifying event or ordeal in which grave physical harm occurred or was threatened. Traumatic events that may trigger PTSD include violent personal assaults, natural or human-caused disasters, accidents, or, as I spoke about earlier, military combat. I know some family members who suffer from this because they've had traumatic things happen in their lives. I don't want to say what happens because of their privacy, just in case they happen to hear this, or I don't want anyone to feel violated, because these type of matters are very sensitive when we're talking about mental illness. Some people are okay with it, but I'm the type of person that I allow other people to share their own truths. I'll tell you about my truths, but I'm not the person that should tell you about someone else's truth unless they've given me permission. Even when I'm telling someone's business, I'll be like, is it okay if I tell such and such? Because I think it's important for people to tell their own stories, tell their own truth. And certain people are like, I don't care, girl, you can tell, whatever. And certain people are very private. So in life, you do have to respect that. So the fifth one on here is social phobia or social anxiety disorder. What that is an anxiety disorder characterized by overwhelming anxiety and excessive self-consciousness in everyday social settings. Like that show, The Awkward Black Girl, which now turned into the show Insecure with Issa Rae. But social phobia can be limited to only one type of situation, such as fear of speaking in formal or informal situations, or eating and drinking in front of others. That's interesting because a lot of people have that social disorder. And you might say, I'm just not comfortable eating or drinking around someone. But it is a social disorder. And a lot of people are like that. Well, a lot of girls, young girls, well, I don't want to eat around a guy. And I remember, when I was younger, I would say that. Now, in front of my husband or in front of anybody, I'm eating whatever I eat. And I'm like... it was Queen Latifah in the movie Just Right. I ain't a salad eating type of chick, even though I love salads. But a lot of people are afraid to eat in front of people. They think that it looks nasty. They don't want to look imperfect, or it's just the disorder. Some people might just think it's a thing, but it really is a thing. So I think it's important that we make note of that. Also, it's a more severe form, as far as it may be so broad that a person's experiences and symptoms almost at any time they're around people. So it's whenever they're in a social setting and around people. And when I read this and I'm reading it again, it's like, so just around people. So that's where you get the loners, and people like to go in the house and they don't like to be around people. They don't like large crowds. They feel uncomfortable. They feel like the room is closing in on them. They don't go to festivals or concerts because they have a social disorder. So you might have someone in your life that feels that way and you're like, you're weird. Why don't you want to go out? They're just people. But this is a real thing, people. Some people cannot handle it. And I want to read this one again for the people in the back, just in case you missed it. And I'm reading between the cracks, y'all. A social phobia or social anxiety disorder is an anxiety disorder characterized by overwhelming anxiety and excessive self-consciousness in everyday situations, social situations. So let me pause because I want to break this down. So excessive self-consciousness in everyday social situations. That can be in the grocery store. That could be at work. That could be at school. That could be around a small group of people, a large group of people. Just that whole, like, fixing your clothes, making sure your hair is right. You feel someone's looking at your teeth. You feel like someone's looking at your feet, your mouth, your eyes. You feel that. Like, that is a real thing. And some people will be like, oh, you're being crazy or you're being silly. But it is a mental disorder. It's an anxiety disorder. And then let's go on to the next. So social phobia can be limited to one type of situation. So fear of speaking in front of people. A lot of people have that phobia. I know my daughter doesn't like to get up. My youngest daughter and I will get up and speak in front of people, and I do that for a living, and sometimes it still is nerve-wracking, but I'm not afraid to do it. And my youngest daughter will do it too, although she might be nervous. Nerves are one thing, but when you're talking about fear, that's another thing. And it's a real fear in someone's, in some heads of the people who experience that social anxiety disorder. So it could be, a lot of people talk about speaking in front of large crowds, but with this disorder, it could be even in informal situations, small talk. Like, some people don't like small talk, and I'm not even going to lie, I don't like small talk all the time. It's so funny because I have two sides of me. I have this shy side where I just want to lay in the cut and chill and be quiet. Then I do what I do for a living. I'm on the radio, I speak, I coach, I counsel, all of this. And that's the quote unquote outgoing side, if you will. So this is informal or formal, small talk, large crowds, speaking. And if you've gone to college, or if you have to graduate from college, I know we had to have a speech class. That's a requirement across the boards, no matter what field. My degree is in human services, professional helping. But in any field, you have to take a speech class. And in the speech class, you have to get up and you have to speak in front of people. And some people are terrified. Like, my daughter will talk about it. My oldest daughter, she's like, oh, I don't want to do this. Like, this is just a lot. And I'm not sure, and I don't think, just by some of these, if she suffers from anxiety, but it makes you think. And this is what this show is about, to make you think, to make you see yourself differently, not to claim anything that you don't have. But if you do have it, you want to address it. Another part of social phobia is eating or drinking in front of others. And I talked about that earlier. But you might make fun of someone. I'm not a fan of making fun of people, by the way, because you never know someone's story, background, what they've gone through. And somebody might flip on you one day if you keep it up. I'm just saying. But some people just drinking in front of them. So you really want to, maybe this show can help you understand people better, or not be so quick to judge someone else based on what they're doing if it seems a little odd to you. And it could be odd to you because you might not have experienced it, or you might not know what it is completely. So it'll make you just pause. Hopefully this show will do that. But people get really, 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 I don't want to say freaked out, but it's very traumatic for some people. So this was from the National Institutes of Mental Health. And there's another disorder outside of the 5 major disorders. And I know people have heard about it. And if you've taken a psychology class, and with my major and with my degree, psychology was big, had to do that along with therapy classes and counseling classes. So although I'm not a doctor and although I'm not a therapist, I am a certified transformational life coach, and in my field of human services, which is a professional helper, once again, we have to take classes, psychology classes, therapy classes, and different things like that, therapist classes. So the other one is separation anxiety. I know you've heard of that. And most of the time you've heard of that with, let me just explain that. It's a disorder in which a child becomes excessively anxious when they're separated from their parent. They're apprehensive, they begin to cry, they have that anxiety. So a lot of parents experience this. I know I did when my youngest first went to kindergarten. This was pre-K. When she went to pre-K, it would be a whole thing. And I know she had separation anxiety. I know that for a fact, because it would be a whole thing. Like, some kids, you can drop them off. They're like, bye, mom, bye, dad. First time they've ever been to a place, they're fine. They're sitting there coloring. They're, talking to the other children in the room. They're putting stuff in their cubby. Not my child. That very first day of pre-K, I thought it was going to be good. I was like, okay, this is going to be all right. This is good. Took her little coat off. She had her little Dora the Explorer. I'll never forget, because I have a picture, pink shirt with her little jeans. She was sitting in her little cubby. When they're in pre-K, they have little cubbies with their names on it. They can hang their coat, put their book bag there. And I remember, I was like, okay, this is going good. She sat in her cubby. I'm like, oh, look, here's your cubby, blah, 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 blah. So then it was time for me to leave. And I tried it a couple of times. I would leave and she'd be crying hysterically, running to the door where I was. So I was like, okay. So then I have to talk it back and go into the classroom and be like, oh, look at the color, da, 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 show her something, and then try to make a break for it. She notices, she doesn't hear my voice. She notices I'm gone and makes a run for it. So then I have to kind of get in cahoots with the teacher. Okay, I'm going to go here. And the teacher's like, okay, you do this and you do that. And then make a run for it and go to work. But she had strong separation anxiety. And kids have it for different reasons. But some adults have that. And I know, me telling that story, I know you're like, my child experienced that too. Or I was a child who experienced that. Because like I said, you see some kids, they're very adjusted. They're like, all right, see you later. Parent could be gone for a week. They don't miss them. Parent could be gone for 5 minutes. And they're like, where's my mom? Where's my dad? But adults have that separation anxiety too, with friends and family members. So with adults, it can be also seen in adults. A lot of people think it's just children. But with separation anxiety, it's an extreme fear that bad things will happen to important people in their lives, such as family members. It's often seen alongside other anxiety-related conditions, such as panic disorders, arachnophobia, and generalized anxiety. Because of the world we live in, people think that their loved ones, when they go outside, that something is going to happen to them. And they get real flustered. They get anxious. They get, consumed with, something happening to someone. Like they can't even leave out the door and separate from their eyesight without them going into a whole panic attack, thinking that something is going to happen to them, bad things. And I know watching the news will have you thinking that bad things will happen to family members and friends and loved ones. But this is something totally different, because typically if you don't suffer from this disorder, you can kind of get yourself together, woo-saw, and kind of, you might think about it, but you can get it out of your mind. With this disorder, it stays on the brain. So the best treatment for separation anxiety for adults is psychotherapeutic treatment. It's a treatment for separation anxiety disorder typically involves cognitive behavioral therapy. A treatment approach that helps adults and children learn to understand and to manage their fear. So that's really what it is. It's the fear that they might not come back. My daughter just came in. Hey, daughter. What's the show? I was talking about the show where they have the obsessive OCD people and they come clean the houses. Your grandmother was showing us. Do you remember the name of that? And your show was Tiny what? The other one with the Asian lady that goes in and cleans the house.
Called, something with Marie Kondo.
Marie Kondo is her name.
Yeah.
So that's the one show. And then the other show, I have to find out from my mother what that one is about. The OCD. If you can look it up from Tidying Up is the one with Marie Kondo. And can you research while I'm still on my show? Okay, or call your grandmother. We'll talk later. I wanted to give it to the people, this beautiful Shine audience, but I will put it below. Y'all, this show is live, so anything is bound to happen. My daughter came out, and I asked her, that's what happens when you have a live show. So I'm going to talk about ways to combat your anxiety. I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Thank you for shining with me, Kendall Lanise. If you're here for the very first time, thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to the show, and don't forget to tell your friends and family about Shine. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my daily blog. She blogs on livingtruthlivingyou.com. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back. That was just a quick break. And when you're doing a live show, you got to relax, release a little bit. All right, so I don't like just talking about something without giving a solution. So on Psychology Today, and if you're just tuning in, you missed the whole show on anxiety, but we're talking about anxiety on the show. You can always go back to listen to the playback. And I think when we do important shows like this and the other shows that I do, it's important for us to share the information. So tell a friend or family member about Shine and this particular show and our other shows. They can always go to my website and listen to past shows. And you can download them, you can share them, you can do anything you want just to get a better understanding. Sometimes in order for it to sink in, you have to hear it a couple of times. So Psychology Today gives 22 quick tips to change your anxiety forever. So if you're suffering from anxiety, there is hope. And the hope, I don't like it always to be medicine. So I search for alternative ways to combat anxiety. So let's see. Start breathing, that deep breathing. If you're not focused on how to calm your body through slow, intentional belly breathing, you're missing out. Belly breathing is free. It's location independent, meaning you can do it anywhere, and it's easy to implement. You can breathe. I don't know if you practice meditation, but that's a sense of that breathing technique. So you're going to sit with your eyes closed and turn your attention to your breathing. Breathe naturally through your nostrils without attempting to control your breath. So you're just going to let it just flow with that. I think it's important to do that. You're going to place one hand on your belly and the other hand on your chest and take a deep breath for a count of 4. Hold your breath for the count of 3. Exhale for a count of 4. The hand on your belly should go in as you inhale and move out and exhale. I'm going to concentrate on your breath and forget everything else. Your mind will be very busy, and you may even feel the meditation is making your mind busier. But the reality is it's making you become aware of how busy your mind is, because you don't know how much runs through your mind unless you stop and pause and really count those breaths. And that's what meditation is. And you're going to resist the temptation to follow different thoughts as they arise, because a whole lot of stuff is going to be going through your head, and you got to focus on your breath. If you discover that your mind has wandered and is following your thoughts, immediately return to counting your breath. And that's really what meditation is about. You want to implement that belly breathing. Also, and with meditation, you want to calm yourself from the inside out. Give yourself the gift of serenity, and just start with 5 or 10 minutes of solitude and positive energy. You want to think about calm things. You want to think about ways to counteract that anxiety. Self-care. Self-care is a big one. And as a life coach, we always talk about self-care. Go get that massage, that mani and pedi, that haircut. Just let that healthy glow shine through. If money is tight, go to the schools to get those things done. Have your friend do it for you. Just do something for yourself. Practice that self-care. I think it's important, even if it's getting a smoothie or a cup of tea. Do something for you. That's a way to counteract that anxiety. You can change anxiety. You don't always have to have it. It's not something that you carry around with you all the time. Again, I'm not a doctor. If you feel like you cannot control it other than going to the doctor, definitely do that. But in addition to, or in supplement of, try some of these things if you're suffering from anxiety. I want to, real quick, before I go into any more, we have a little bit of time left, but I've never suffered from anxiety. I've never had that disorder. But one time, I think I was having a panic attack, an anxiety attack. It's a sudden episode of intense fear or anxiety and physical symptoms based on a perceived threat rather than imminent danger. So real quick, I took the mega bus to New York one time, and I do it all the time from Maryland. And one time I was coming back, and it was the dead of summer. It was so hot on that bus. The air conditioner broke, and it was really, really, really hot. Everybody was taking their clothes off as far as their layers, their jackets. People were complaining. Because at first you got to look around to see if it's because I'm a woman of a certain age. Am I hot? Am I in my own personal summer, or is it really hot? And everybody, including my daughters, were like, it's hot. But I was sitting in that chair, and it was so hot that it was stifling. And it almost felt like I was suffocating. It was really, really weird. I had never experienced anything like that before or after that. But it was really weird. Like I could not sit in the seat. I felt like I was hyperventilating. I went to the bus driver and I said, the air, it's hot there. Everybody, like it was a double decker. So when I went downstairs, I was up and I went downstairs and people were doing the same thing. They were like, it's hot in here. And you already know people were going off. So I came from upstairs to the bottom of the bus and I talked to the bus driver and I said, listen, it's hot in here. I said, if people have asthma, because I'm the spokesperson for everybody. I'm like, if people have asthma, certain things, going on, this might be a serious issue because it's the dead of summer. It's hot. And, he was like, the only thing I can do is pull the bus over and ask for another bus to come and everything. So basically people had to deal with it. And it was bothering me so badly. I felt like at first I couldn't control myself. So I had to kind of stop and just breathe and breathe and breathe. So then I found a spot, again, a double decker bus. So on the stairway from the bottom of the bus to up top, there was a small vent that a little air was coming out of it. And I rode that whole bus ride home on the stairs of that bus because of that air. It was really stifling. And I started doing some of the things I didn't even know that but I felt like, I was like, this is weird. I've never experienced this before or after. But I had to really, I was counting, I was praying, I was just trying to soothe myself. And of course, I began to calm down, but it was overwhelming. So I can't even imagine if somebody experiences that on the regular basis, because just that small window of time, I didn't like how it felt. So and even if I don't suffer from anxiety on the regular basis, some people might have moments where they have a stint of it or they're not sure what it is. And that could be with anything. But another buster, I just wanted to share that with you because I'm all about being transparent. I'm all about using myself as an example. I'm all about if I can help you, that's what I'm going to do, because I think it's important for us as people to share some of our stories, even if it's not that big, because someone else could benefit or someone else could relate to that. Another anxiety buster is eliminating soda, believe it or not. Eliminate those sugars, that caffeine. It'll get you all hyped up. And sometimes that's not good if you have anxiety. Also, trimming the fat. Trim the fat on your budget. Trim the other fat too, but on your budget. And you might be like, well, how does that? Because so many people have anxiety over money. So just that. And it's important to, and then cutting down so you're not so stressed out financially where you begin to feel the anxiety of that. Getting rid of the clutter in your life, being able to be focused and organized and having everything right. Get away, plan a trip, a day trip, a weekend trip, an hour trip, whatever you got to do. Sometimes going to bed early. That helps. You might be extremely tired. Wake up 15 minutes earlier than normal so you're not running around frantic trying to get to work. A lot of us, sometimes go to bed late, wake up early, and you want to get to work on time. So instead of stressing, you're able to kind of pace your morning out. Also, lavender oil. A lot of essential oils help for calmness and soothing you and calming. You can put it in your bath water. You can put it on you. You can put it in your hair. You can put it in an oil diffuser. It's good for headaches. It's good for relaxation, muscle relaxation. Look up essential oils and the different things that you can do with them. And they have a lot of healing elements and healing powers. Again, reducing that caffeine. Go green. What about those kale salads, the cucumber, all of that? That helps, believe it or not. A lot of things that we experience have to do with what we're eating and how we're handling our bodies. And a great way to do it as a life coach, a way that you can counteract or combat anxiety is practice gratitude. Make a mental note of positive things in your life. Remember, everything in your life is temporary, the good, bad, and the ugly. Also, own your stuff. Take accountability. It might not sound like it's going to combat anxiety, but it will. Again, in exercising, of course, that combats it. Exercise is good for a lot of ailments, including physical and mental illnesses. And accept your anxiety if that's what you have, but don't let it take a hold of you. You want to understand who you are and what you're going through, because that's the best way you can combat it. If you address it, it doesn't have to be the definition of who you are. But if that's something that you experience or that's something that is that you want to change, you have the power to change that. I mean, we're talking about anxiety here. I can go on and on and on and on, but we're approaching the end of the show. But I really wanted to just bring this to you because I think, I know it's very important. And somebody out there needed to hear this. And again, if you aren't the person that needed to hear it, you know someone who needed to hear it. The National Alliance of Mental Illness talks about anxiety. There are so many different websites out there that talk about this. So please further your knowledge, further your education on anxiety and other mental illnesses. This has been a great show. I thank you for shining with me, Kendall Anise, today. And if no one told you you were special today, I'm telling you right now. If no one told you you are amazing, I'm telling you right now. Take care. God bless. Thank you for tuning in to Shine. Shine airs live every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For more information about Shine and Kendall Lanise, visit livingtruelivingyou.com. Remember, it's never too late to remix your life.